All right, let's talk now about, of course, on D1Softball.com. Over the last couple of weeks, you've been able to check out the all-quarter century list of teams with 5 different categories, 125 athletes really honored through these lists. On the previous episode of In the Circle on D1 Softball, me and Jenna Becerra went over an hour breaking down all the 5 categories. So what we're going to do here in the coming episodes, me and Victor are going to dissect one category per list to go more in depth. And I think it's fitting that on this particular case, we're going to start with the non-power conference pitchers, Victor, for a couple of reasons. Obviously, this segment will be airing on the episode of Belmont with one of the, maybe arguably the best non-power conference pitcher going into 2026 in Maya Johnson in Belmont, which we highlighted in that episode. But number 2, you and I lived off covering non-power conference softball for decades.
Yes.
Through our various gigs that we've had. So I think this is very fitting that this would be the first topic. So I know I'm intrigued because I know you've covered some of these pitchers that are on this list and watched a lot of them, and especially with some of the ties. So I am looking forward to your thoughts on this. So one of the things, ladies and gentlemen, for what we're going to do here, we're going to break down this list of players and kind of break it down. Victor will share and I will share any players that we think, hey, has a case that could have made it on this list but didn't. We're not going to call it a snub because Jenna's right. I mean, a snub suggests that you know, and Victor, this is your rule, and she's brought it up. If you think somebody should be on the list, well, who do you take out? Which evidently some of the people that I've seen on social media have not listened to your mantra on that. So we'll keep reminding people about that. But then at the end, oh, baby, we're going to bring the Victor A-list game on this because Victor and I are going to each pick 5 players from this list. 5. That's it. And boy, that'll be controversial. But Victor, all right, but Vic, give me your thoughts on this list here as we, for those that are good. Now, this segment is going to be on the YouTube channel. For those of you watching on our YouTube channel, In the Circle, be a reminder, subscribe to this. Is why you subscribe. You never know. This is the list of the non-power 4 pitchers. Amy Kreger of Tulsa, Nicole Newman of Drake, Angel Shamblin of Houston, Nikki Myers of FAU, Ashley Brignac of Louisiana, Olivia Galati of Hofstra, Randy Rupp of Texas State, Brandis Boltschmitter of UMass, Sydney Ball of Pacific, Sarah Nevins of South Florida, Randy Rupp, as I mentioned, Texas State, Courtney Coppensmith of UMBC, Sarah Plord of UMass, Georgina Korick of South Florida, Sarah Pauly of Texas A&M Corpus Christi, Hannah Campbell of South Alabama, Shelby Turnier of UCF, Jamie Southern of Fresno State, which, by the way, I want to make a correction from the last podcast episode on the segment with Jenna Becerra. I think I referenced Jamie Southern helping win Fresno the national title. That is not accurate. Fresno won their national title in 98, so my mistake on that, thanks to those who caught it. Stephanie Ricketts of Hawaii, Jen Manu of Fordham, Summer Ellison of Louisiana, Jessica Mullins of Texas State, Tara Altman of Creighton, Lindsay Schuniart of DePaul, Tony Paisley of East Carolina, and Whitney Keyhole of Lipscomb. Victor, thoughts?
Well, looking at this list, and I kind of highlighted this on the episode, this is the one list where there were not too many snubs, so to speak, in that regard. Because let's keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we're considering teams who did not play in the current power conferences since 2000, which means Notre Dame was in the Big East before they played in the ACC. So we're taking that part into consideration. Overall, Eric, the list was just stellar. And some of the names on the list, a lot of them I know and I knew of, but there are a lot of fans that don't remember. I remember following Tony Paisley at East Carolina when UCF was in Conference USA, the many, many battles UCF had with her over the time she was wearing that power uniform. And the fact that we recognized Sidney Ball, now Sidney Ball Malone, the head coach of UCF, who you know very well, Mr. Lopez, myself as well. People forget she was an absolute stud at Pacific playing for Coach Colsey.
Two-time All-American. By the way, full disclosure, as we were trying to put all these teams together, was in the conversation to either be on this list or the two-way list, because she was a two-way player. The voting turned out they preferred to put her on this pitchers list. By the way, not a bad deal there. But you're right. She led Pacific to within one win away of the College World Series in 2001 before losing to one of her best friends, in Jessica Mendoza in Stanford in the regional final in Palo Alto. Otherwise, they should have led Pacific to the World Series. That's how good she was.
I mean, it's remarkable to see these names, Summer Ellison, and actually bringing out the list of pitchers that were there with Louisiana just back during the last 25 years is remarkable unto itself. Louisiana will be well represented on the non-power forward hitter list, which we'll get to on a future show. But the two that I want to bring up, Sarah Pauley from Texas A&M Corpus Christi, a longtime veteran in the pro ranks.
We both covered her in the pro.
Yes. We both covered her when she played with the USSSA Pride. And I'm like, she played at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Like, wait, what? And then I went to the article and I read up her numbers, available on d1softball.com, by the way. And her numbers, wow. 112 wins, 1,636 strikeouts, 3-time Big South Pitcher of the Year, All-American in her senior year, 2005. I don't think it's nice that players like her are given their well-earned flowers with what she did in putting that program on the map single-handedly with her arm. Just phenomenal talent, long-time pro career. And I'm excited that she got recognized on this list. As far as players that I thought have a case, I have two definites and one what if. Which one do you want me to talk about first?
You go what direction you like, my friend. This is your segment here by platform.
Now, we went over South Alabama on the list, and rightfully so. One of the names on the list was their first ever All-American, Hannah Campbell. People forget South Alabama has had a nice string of aces after Campbell, Olivia Lackey being the most recent of them, but someone who I don't feel got the proper credit or proper recognition and is an inductee in the South Alabama Athletics Hall of Fame is, matter of fact, let me get, I want to make sure I get her name correct because we're doing this very big time segment. I don't want to mess up.
For the record, Lackey was under consideration.
Okay.
On the during, from what I understand, in this situation there, and by the way, Hannah Campbell led them to the Super Regionals.
Yes, she did. Okay.
During which I think helped her case, among many things in her resume, get into this list.
Okay, I can understand where the committee was coming from in that particular regard. Oh yeah, here we go. Sorry about that, folks. I had to make sure I was finding my place. Ferris Beard from South Alabama, I think should have gotten consideration.
I think she was, again, just didn't. I mean, I was not. Full disclosure, and I'll explain this because there's a couple other names that I'll bring up. I was sort of in the part of the process, but then there was portions where I was not, and I'll explain that in a little bit because it'll make a lot of sense. But I do know those two were under consideration, and I know Lackey got some support, but Campbell won the vote. And you know what happened? I think sometimes I don't know if it was an inadvertent, subconscious, in some cases, not all, but I think in some cases it became like, well, which South Alabama pitcher versus South Alabama pitcher. It just turned out, you know what I mean? Like, I'll give you the example because this has been brought up to my attention. UCF, Shelby Turnier made the list. Well, people are asking me, well, what about Mackenzie Audis? What about Allison Kine, right? What about, now, full disclosure, I was not in the process as far as help selecting the UCF pitchers because of conflict of interest. Obviously, because Victor, if it's up to me, I would probably have Mackenzie Otis on my ballot, for example. I would have Allison Kime on my ballot, right? But that's my ballot. It's not, so you want to represent. Now, they did ask me, who do you nominate from a UCF standpoint, which I gave them the names of some of those and others, right? What I was told, because again, I was not in final determination and all that, what separated Shelby from the rest of the UCF pitchers and why Shelby got in was because she was the only one that was a first team All-American. She was the only All-American, the first ever at UCF softball from the NFCA standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Mackenzie Otis got screwed in that process, but don't get me started on that.
Not that you're still bitter about that after all these years.
And then Allison Kime, unfortunately, was in the same time period as Angel Shamblin, who won all the 3 USA Pitcher of the Year awards, and then following her it was Tony Paisley, as you mentioned. So that's kind of the separator, was the fact that Shelby not only won Pitcher of the Year but won the All-Americans, and that's the thing that I think in some of these debates was the separator in some of these cases. So that's why, for example, Shelby got the nod. And by the way, remember, Shelby was a top 10 National Player of the Year finalist during her junior year in 2015. So that's how she got the nod for UCF. I was personally just happy that UCF was represented, because I think Vic, I think you would agree with this. It would have been strange to see this category of names of pitchers and not see a UCF night pitcher with the tradition they've had pitching wise.
Yes, going all the way back to the program's inception with Dottie Cup and then Lindsay Enders, so forth and so on. I agree with you on that point, which makes of course, we have to talk about UCF. We got to talk about their I-4 rivals, USF, who have both Sarah Nevins and Georgina Corrick on the list. Of course, Sarah Nevins leading USF to the Women's College World Series, the remarkable run that she had. Georgina Corrick, Her Royal Highness, her numbers speak for herself. I don't have a problem with both of them being on the list, simply because, Eric, when you think of USF softball and you think about the style that Ken Erickson has been known for, that dominant ace, those are the 2 names that come to mind for me. Nevins, Corrick.
I agree. I agree.
Definition of USF softball.
Remember, Nevins led USF to the College World Series in 2012. Yes, and Corrick, I was talking to Jen about this. She's in the conversation right now for best pitcher in the world right now. I mean, she's just coming off an incredible pro season at the AUSL, where she won Pitcher of the Year. Then she pitched for Great Britain. So I think she's I think those are the 2 best bulls. I know if Ken Erickson was here, he would mention other names as well that should have been included. But again, you can't include everybody.
Yeah.
On there. I want to ask you about a player. You talk about, Nikki Myers, FAU. She was part of those FAU teams when you started covering softball, Vic.
Yes.
Back in the A-Sun and Joan Joyce, when they dominated the beginning of the century in the A-Sun, where they went from 2000 to 2004 as A-Sun champions. And Nikki Myers was a part of that in that championship run that denied UCF multiple times before UCF broke through in 2005, which you were part of there as a broadcaster.
Well, and I want to give people the context of Nikki Myers' numbers. She's the all-time program leader for FAU in ERA .99, opponent's batting average 155, strikeouts per 7 innings 9.67, strikeouts 1,376. As a matter of fact, Nikki Myers by herself has more strikeouts than the next 2 closest Owls combined. I might talk about one of them in just a moment. 108 wins, most all-time program history. 8 saves. Had that record until Ainsley Lambert shattered that record. She currently has 22 and counting. 47 shutouts, 166 appearances, 128 starts, 120 complete games, 995 and 2/3 innings pitched. And oh, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we want to talk about two-way players. She holds the FAU all-time record in hits, second in doubles, She leads them in home runs. She leads them in RBIs. She's number 3 all time in average.
She's another one that could add a case to be on the two-way list. Again, one of the rules we made is a player can only be on one category. In other words, you're not going to put them on multiple categories. We want to do, showcase as many different players as possible from this quarter century. But
yes,
she also had an argument to be on the two-way list instead of this list. But
she certainly did. Which leads me, Eric, to my biggest what if. 2002, Myers' senior season, Joan Joyce had a studded freshman class. One of them was a 5'10" pitcher from Corvallis, Oregon, by the name of Candace Friel. Candace Friel, you want to talk about Candace Friel was the one that gave me and Matt Dunaway nightmares. 2002, 2003, and especially 2004. I remember being in Boca Raton in that press box that night, game 1 of a doubleheader, where Candace Friel shut out UCF 1-0 through a no-hitter in 11 innings and had 20 strikeouts. She was
she was under consideration. She was in my ballot when I put in my votes there. I'm assuming she would have been in your ballot.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. This may ruffle some feathers because, of course, UCF finally broke through, beat FAU in Boca Raton at Friday the 13th. Brittany Lindheim with a walk-off single to eliminate FAU and then beat Troy twice on that Saturday to win their first ASUN tournament championship ever. Candace Friel only pitched in 8 games that 2005 season. Had she been healthy with the staff that was coming down the line, I think FAU would have knocked off UCF, possibly. And who knows what the trajectory of college softball would have been if FAU beat UCF. Because we talked about this, Eric, on numerous podcasts. UCF goes to the Gainesville Regional. UCF eliminates Florida. Florida hires Tim Walton, but Duke Cookman goes to the Super Regional. What could have happened if it was FAU in that position? That's one of the biggest what ifs.
Well, we know where they would have been sent was Gainesville. They would have been in that UCF slot playing South Florida. I mean, who knows? You're right. That might have been Joyce's best shot to get out of the regional. They probably would have played Texas. I don't think they beat Texas with.
But I would have loved to see. I would have loved to see what Candace Friel would have done against Cat Osterman if it got to that point.
I want to give you this stat. This is interesting. I'm looking at this list. All right. Amy Kreger, Angel Shamblin, Olivia Galati. No, I didn't call Galati. Take that back.
No, he didn't.
Kreger, Shamblin, Sarah Nevins, Regina Korick, Shelby Turnier, Tony Paisley. All of them I covered them in person and called games of theirs. And if you count the pros, I called Paulie. You and I both did.
Yeah.
She was good. How about Whitney Lipscomb in the ASUN Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Best ever at Lipscomb.
And think about this. She and Nicole Meyer. I want you to think about this stat that I'm about to give to you about her. She was the first player ever in 2010 to win ASUN Player and Pitcher of the Year.
Which I know was big, by the way. That was big. I can tell you that was significant in her getting on this list.
And I listed off the numbers that Nikki Myers had at FAU, and she couldn't pull off she couldn't pull off the double dip. And to put in this perspective, Eric, before Allison Benning did it with North Florida in 2025, there have been one other instance that a player won both player and pitcher of the year, the ASUN.
It's good company there. By the way, Allison Benning only played 2 years mid-May, so that's why she didn't make the list, in case those are wondering. Same thing with the Maya Johnson situation, not enough, I think, time kind of kept them off the list. Plus, by the way, again, who are you taking off? On that list? I know some Louisiana Cajun fans made the case for Brooke Mitchell. Again, not everybody can get in. Which
Cajun do you take off?
Right. Right, Brignac or Summer Ellison. We both would recommend. I mean, Brignac got him to the World Series, so they were both tremendous there. Jen Manu, my goodness, I mean, remember Jen Manu? Fordham was tremendous. There, Mullins, good to see Mullins and Randy Rupp, both Texas State. Pretty good. Only Ricky Witter can maybe answer the question which one she would take of those two. Nicole Newman,
And she will plead the fifth.
Nicole Newman obviously was dominant during her time with Drake, and now the pitching coach at FAU. Ironically enough, Galati led Hofstra to almost nearly a win away from the World Series. There with Bill Edwards and company back in the day. So, man, and then the UMass pitchers, man, they were there the dominant UMass days during that time period. Just an incredible list. On this shooting art, by the way, got inducted to the DePaul Hall of Fame a couple years ago, recently. So, and Tara Altman, shout out to Creighton. They wrote a big press release about being her on this list. Maybe arguably the greatest Blue Jay ever there to play there. So, strong list, Vic. Any other thoughts before we move on to your Victor A list?
Well, again, of the quarter century teams in these lists, this is the one that I feel had the fewest grievances. I mean, we've mentioned several who are in consideration.
Another name that we both covered, Meredith Owen, just didn't have enough, but she was under consideration.
Yeah. Meredith, we got to give love to Meredith Owen as well with the phenomenal career that she had. So are we ready, Mr. Lopez, for the Victor A list?
All right, so we're going to do the Victor A list, except now this will be Victor and me picking our 5. Now, Vic, do you want to do it draft style where somebody picks first and the other one second, or do you just want to randomly pick your 5 and if we agree, whatever? But how you want to do it? It's your game. It's your list.
Since it is my game and it is my list, I will take first pick, and I will take Her Royal Highness Georgina Court.
All right, so we're doing draft style then.
Which means you get the next 2 since it is the snake draft.
Snake draft. Okay, I'm looking at this list. Ooh, so you have obviously Georgina Cork. That's a very good pick. All right, I will take my next 2 picks. I'm going to go Shelby Turnier and Angel Shamblin.
Okay. So I am up for 2. I will take for my next pick. I will go with Randy Rupp.
I think somewhere Kat Osterman will approve of that selection.
I know she will, friend of the podcast. And I'll go. I talked about it so much. I'll go Nikki Myers from FAU.
Only fitting. I think that's very fitting. I feel like that would have been wrong.
Considering as much FAU softball I've seen when I started broadcasting softball in the early 2000s, that would be a miscarriage of justice if I did not do that.
All right. How many picks do I have? 1 or 2?
You got 2 now because you took Shelby Turnier and Angel Shamblin with your first 2 picks. So you got 2. You're up 2. You got 2 coming up.
All right. I'm going to take. So I got 2 picks.
Yes.
All right. First pick. I'm going to go Cindy Ball. Yeah.
I so wanted to take Coach Bearjits to get you into some trouble.
You had the opening there, but I gambled a little bit there. And then, oh boy, this is the last pick I got, huh?
No, you got one more pick after this one.
Right, but do I pick it now or do you pick?
You got one more, and then I got my final 2, and you.
All right, put up the list here for the YouTube audience. One more time here, so because I'm gonna.
So there's our list. So right now, Eric has on his A list Shelby Turnier, Angel Shamblin, and Sydney Ball. Now Sydney Ball Malone. My 3 picks so far are Georgina Corrick, Randy Rupp, and Nikki Myers.
All right. I will go Sarah Nevins. Led the Bulls to the World Series. Got to go with her.
Fair. All right. So I have my final two picks. Well, you said talking about leading teams to World Series. I'll go Ashley Brignac from Louisiana. And then to wrap up my list, I'm gonna go Brandis Ballschmitter from UMass. So you, Mr. Lopez, have the final pick on our all-quarter century team version of the Victor A list.
Woof! I'm gonna be a bit of a.
You can't say you'd be a bit of a homer because you already got Turnier and Coach Bear.
No, you're right. But I'll admit, I'm being a little biased here because all of these people I've seen up close.
Okay.
So I do acknowledge that a little bit. That's except for Coach Ball. I didn't see her play. I have seen her coach.
We both have.
I'm going to go Tony Paisley, East Carolina.
Okay.
Yep. I'm going to go Paisley, my last pick. East Carolina. Look at what really East Carolina hasn't been the same since she graduated. And she was unhittable at times. And boy, she was incredible. And I admit I'm a little biased towards that era of CUSA softball when I covered from. Remember, you were there the first couple of years.
I started it when UCF first got into Conference USA, and then you came in.
Won pitcher of the year. Shamblin won in 06. Shamblin won 07, 08. Then Paisley took over 9, 10, 11 in CUSA days. Then you had Allison Keim, I mentioned earlier, from UCF, among other pitchers in the league. That was at a time where CUSA was easily a 2 to 4 bid league, and Paisley was a big part of that. So that's why I'm going to go with her.
All right. So
interestingly, I've seen her, Shamblin, and Keim all win CUSA championships in person, as well as Shelby, who pitched a one-hitter in UCF against Tulsa in the American Conference Championship in 2015.
Yes. So just to recap the Victor A list, and we'll post the list on our social media platforms. My 5: Georgina Corrick, Randy Rupp, Nikki Myers, Brignac, and Ballschmitter. Eric has Shelby Turnier, Angel Shamblin, Sydney Ball, Sarah Nevins, and Tony Paisley.
And then on the YouTube channel, feel free to drop in on the comment sections. Who would be your 5 that you would pick? And see what it is. It's not easy. Trust me.
No, it's not. And also for those of you watching us on YouTube, we will have a link in the description with the full top 20, with the full list that you can see. You can read the article available for free on d1softball.com. Again, promo code FALL25. The all-quarter century teams, those are available for free. Everything else, use promo code FALL25 to get 25% off your subscription. And this is the first of many exercises Eric and I will do with D1 softball.
Have fun with this, Vic. What'd you think? First one we're doing, first of 5 we're doing here.
This is a fun exercise. This is a fun one. And
I don't want to harder though. I'm telling you, it's going to get harder.
Look, I don't want to let too much out of the behind the scenes, but we may have a future interview with someone who's on the non-power 4 hitters list on a future episode. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. You got to follow the socials.
And by the way, if you listen to the last episode, we did touch on head coaches. I'm still working on that. And we're
still working on that.
Where everybody's working on that. Again, this has become a popular thing, which is great. I'm not surprised. People love to argue and debate lists, and so we're appreciative of that. So make sure you check out d1softball.com for the full entire lists. Also, fall reports are ongoing right now there as well, so make sure you check those out as well. And of course, Laura Matthews' interview is up on the YouTube channel in case you missed it on the podcast feed. But of course, you can listen to it on this episode that you might, if you're listening to this on the podcast feed. And by the way, for Belmont fans who are listening to this episode, don't look for a Belmont fall report in the coming weeks as well on the d1softball.com with, me writing it. So that'll be yours truly. I'll be working on that. That's how I know that's coming. So this is fun, Vic. We'll do it again. We'll do all the categories. We'll have them on the podcast and on the YouTube. But that will do it for now. For Victor Anderson, I'm Eric Lopez. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of In the Circle on D1 Softball.
Top podcast is out. Good night, Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. The Cup Defense begins on Tuesday.